India Live, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reaches New Delhi after concluding power-packed three-nation tour of Cyprus, Canada and Croatia, had a successful meeting with global leaders on G7 summit on the sidelines. India evacuates citizens under Operation Sindhu from troubled Iranian zones. 110 Indian students safely brought back home on special flight from Armenia. Israel and Iran exchange barrage of missiles amid reports of US moving military assets to West Asia. Trump says Iran is in trouble, wants to negotiate, but Khamenei remains defiant. And record 54 Indian institutes make a cut at Global University Rankings 2026. IIT Delhi tops national list. PM Modi reaffirmed government's commitment to nurture research and innovation ecosystems for country's youth. Good evening to all the viewers joining us at this evening broadcast. To begin with the latest, Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived in New Delhi on Thursday after concluding a highly successful and productive three-nation visit to Cyprus, Canada and Croatia, marking a significant milestone in the bilateral relations between the three countries. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's first stop was Cyprus, followed by Canada, where he attended the G7 summit and held several successful meetings with global leaders on the sidelines of the G7 summit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Croatia, marking a historic moment in India-Croatia ties. PM Modi's Croatia visit remains special, with the Croatian Prime Minister Andrej Plenković receiving him at the airport. Meeting his counterpart, Prime Minister Andrej Plenković in Zagreb, the two leaders underscored their shared democratic values and mutual aspiration for stronger bilateral ties. The leaders witnessed the signing of key MOUs and agreements. In his remarks during the press meet with PM Plenković, Prime Minister Modi spoke about shared democratic values, global peace, fight against terrorism and strengthening cultural and strategic partnership between India and the key European partner.
जिस उत्साह, आत्मीयता और स्नेह से मेरा स्वागत हुआ, उसके लिए मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी और क्रोएशिया सरकार का हार्दिक आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। भारत और क्रोएशिया लोकतंत्र, रूल ऑफ लॉ, प्लुरलिज्म और इक्वलिटी जैसे साझा मूल्यों से जुड़े हैं। ये सुखद संयोग है कि पिछले वर्ष भारत के लोगों ने मुझे और क्रोएशिया के लोगों ने प्रधानमंत्री आंद्रे जी को लगातार तीसरी बार सेवा करने का अवसर दिया। इस जनविश्वास के साथ हमने अपने तीसरे कार्यकाल में अपने द्विपक्षीय संबंधों को 3 गुना गति देने का निर्णय लिया।
Amid escalating tensions in West Asia and the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict, India has launched Operation Sindhu to evacuate its nationals from the conflict zones in Iran. The first batch of 110 Indians, including 90 students from Jammu and Kashmir, have safely reached in New Delhi. Evacuated citizens have thanked the Government of India and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Our next report gets you more details. Take a look.
In the early hours of Thursday, first group of 110 Indian nationals evacuated under Operation Sindhu landed in New Delhi. Operation Sindhu is a coordinated effort to evacuate Indian nationals from Iran amid growing regional unrest in West Asia. The evacuees included 90 students from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. They made a challenging road journey to Armenian capital Yerevan under close supervision of Indian missions in Iran and Armenia.
We were hoping that there will be a swift action, and it did. The Ministry of External Affairs and the embassy in Iran, Indian embassy in Iran, they helped us a lot. And when they came to our doorsteps, and they told us we are bringing you home, and it was like I felt so happy. And because airspace was closed, they firstly relocated us to Armenia through ground borders, and within one day they airlifted us back to India, to our home, to our soil, and we're very happy. And we like to thank the government of India.
On June 18th, they boarded Indigo Flight 6E9487, which was specially arranged as part of the rescue operation. Their arrival in India marked conclusion of a crucial first step in a complex evacuation mission.
So we have planes ready. We'll be sending another plane today. We are evacuating some more people from Turkmenistan. Today another plane will be going, and our missions have opened a 24-hour line for any request for evacuation. And as the situation evolves, we'll be sending more planes, more chartered flights to evacuate all Indian nationals from Iran. Right now, there is no such requirement, and we see no such need for the Indian Air Force right now. And we are having a good cooperation from both Armenia and Turkmenistan in evacuating our Indian nationals. And I'd like to thank the government for the help they are giving us to evacuate our students and our nationals.
With hundreds of Indian nationals still stuck in Iran, Operation Sindhu will continue, once again reaffirming India's resolve that no citizen will be left behind in times of crisis. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
Israel and Iran have exchanged barrage of missiles amid reports of US moving military assets in West Asia. US President Donald Trump has not made clear decisions on how to proceed on Iran. Shalini Puri reports. Missiles seen flying across the skies of Israel and the West Bank. Sirens were heard wailing across Jerusalem early on Thursday. There were similar scenes in Israel's Haifa. The worst ever conflict between the two regional powers has entered its seventh day. Iran has launched another missile attack in which high rises in central Tel Aviv were heavily damaged. Evacuations are taking place from the worst hit areas in both the regions. Iranians have been arriving at the eastern Turkish border city of Van to seek shelter from the intensifying strikes.
We hope these predicaments will come to an end as soon as possible and that all countries can solve the problems with each other, allowing people to live together in peace and happiness.
%80-%90'ını görmekteyiz.
The German Federal Foreign Ministry organized the first flight of 171 evacuees to evacuate German citizens and their close family members from Israel on Wednesday. People arriving in Frankfurt from Amman, Jordan, said they had to spend their last nights in Israel in bunkers.
Very exhausting and very tense. We usually had to go down to the shelter 3 times at night, but seeing what the people there are going through is actually the worst thing, especially because we can leave, but they stay here. And I have to say, they are incredibly strong.
Global leaders feel de-escalation is necessary to ease the tensions soaring in West Asia. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer spoke to the Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Both echoed the need for de-escalation and diplomacy. US President Donald Trump says that he has not made a decision on how to proceed on Iran.
I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war. Things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other.
Trump later said Iranian officials wanted to come to Washington for a meeting. He declined to say if he had made any decision on whether to join Israel's air campaign. He believed that Iran was close to developing a nuclear weapon before the attacks began.
Well, I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. And I think they were a few weeks away from having one. And they had to sign a document.
Iran has denied that it is seeking nuclear weapons and says its program is for peaceful purpose only. A week of missile strike has wiped out the top echelon of Iran's military command, damaged its nuclear capabilities, and killed hundreds of people. Shalini Puri's report, DD India. Now, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi confirmed on Thursday that he would meet his British, French and German counterparts as well as the European Union's top diplomat on Friday in Geneva. He said the meeting had come at the request of the 3 European states. The meeting represents a potential diplomatic breakthrough after 5 days of Israeli bombing, as well as being the first face-to-face diplomatic meeting since the crisis began. And now let's get you the latest on the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday said that he's ready to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, but only if it is during a final phase of negotiations. Now, during a roundtable discussion with the editors from international news agencies on Wednesday, Putin said Russia wants to end the conflict in Ukraine as soon as possible through peaceful means. The Russian president said that Moscow remains open to substantive talks aimed at settling the conflict in Ukraine. However, Putin questioned Zelensky's legitimacy as a representative of Ukraine.
I am ready to meet everyone, including Zelensky. I am even ready to meet with him, but only if it is some kind of final phase, so as not to endlessly sit and divide something, but to put a point to it. However, the signature must belong to legitimate authorities.
Finland's parliament has voted in favor of withdrawing from the Ottawa Convention, a treaty that bans the use of anti-personnel landmines amid concerns over Russia's military threat. Finland, that guards NATO's longest border with Russia, will be able to start stockpiling landmines 6 months after formally notifying other treaty members and the United Nations of its resignation. It now joins other European Union and NATO countries bordering Russia, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia and Poland in leaving or planning to leave the treaty. In the United States, an appeals court is reviewing whether it can limit President Donald Trump's power to send the National Guard and Marines there during protests and unrest. About 700 Marines and roughly 4,000 National Guard troops have been called up and deployed to Los Angeles. Democratic California Governor Gavin Newsom was against the move, but the public protested against the president's immigration raids. Lawyers for the Department of Justice have argued that Trump's decision to deploy troops was necessary in order to protect federal property and personnel from mob violence in the city. While the administration argues that the law, specifically Section 12406 of Title 10, gives the president sole discretion to determine whether a rebellion or danger of a rebellion requires a military response, and that neither the courts nor a state governor can second-guess that determination. A candlelight vigil was held outside the Minnesota state capitol, honoring the memory of state lawmaker Melissa Hotman and her husband Mark, who were tragically assassinated in their home on the 14th of June. The suspect, called Vance Bolter, accused of killing Hotman and her husband, faces state and federal murder charges after a massive 2-day manhunt. Bolter is also charged with shooting and injuring State Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette in their home nearby. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. Up next, we get you refreshing visuals of how the world is gearing up for International Yoga Day. US Federal Reserve has kept interest rates unchanged for a 4th straight meeting.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India Live. Well, India has recorded its strongest presence yet in the QS World University Ranking 2026. 54 Indian institutions are included in the list. This shows a significant jump from 46 in the year 2025 and 45 in the year 2024. This 390% increase from just 11 ranked universities in 2014 makes India the fastest growing higher education system among the G20 countries and the fourth most represented nation in the rankings. At the top of the pack is Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi. IIT Delhi is holding 123rd position in 2026, which in 2025 stood at 150, and in 2024 it stood at 197. IIT Bombay remains in top 130 and continues to score highly on employer reputation. IIT Madras recorded one of the most dramatic improvements in 2026, jumped 47 places to reach the 180th spot. Another top-performing Indian institution includes IIT Kharagpur, IISc Bangalore and IIT Kanpur. Among non-IITs, Delhi University stood at 328 position and Anna University at 465 featured in the top 500. The inclusion of 8 new Indian universities in 2026 edition, which is more than any other country, sends a signal of a broader institutional momentum across India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed the QS World University rankings as a testament to India's growing stature in global education and research. He reaffirmed government's commitment to furthering research and innovation ecosystems for the benefit of India's youth. Now, Secretary East of India's Ministry of External Affairs, P. Kumaran, met Director General for Asia, Pacific and Africa, Abdul Qadir Jalani, in Jakarta, Indonesia, today. Underlining the close India-Indonesia ties, both the sides discussed further strengthening comprehensive strategic partnership between the two nations and followed up on the outcomes of the state visit of President Prabowo Subianto to India in January this year. They also exchanged views on regional and global issues of mutual interest. The U.S. Federal Reserve has kept interest rates unchanged for a fourth straight meeting, holding the benchmark rate between 4.25 and 4.5%. The Fed also signaled 2 possible rate cuts later this year, even as it revised its outlook, warning of higher inflation and slower economic growth amid rising tariffs and global uncertainty.
The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged. We believe that the current stance of monetary policy leaves us well positioned to respond in a timely way to potential economic developments.
Global markets wobbled on Thursday as escalating tensions between Israel and Iran reignited inflation fears. Major stock indices mostly fell, with Hong Kong leading losses in Asia down 2% and Tokyo slipping 1%. The US dollar traded mixed after the Federal Reserve held interest rates steady for a fourth straight meeting, defying pressure from former President Donald Trump to ease borrowing costs. Eurozone yields were slightly higher as investors focused on a series of monetary policy decisions while watching developments in the Middle East. While US firms are outspending European firms on research and development, according to a survey by consulting firm EY. Joining us with more is TW correspondent Chipondu Chimbelu in Berlin. Good evening from India, Chipondu. What more can you tell us about this?
Thanks for having me. Well, the numbers speak for themselves. Out of 500 global firms that are research intensive, more than a quarter are American. And those US firms spent 524 billion euros on innovation last year. Now, that is more than double the amount spent by EU companies represented in the EY survey. Now, American firms have been outspending their European peers on R&D because they, on average, allocate a bigger chunk of their revenues to research and development. And that is a trend that we can expect to continue over the coming years. While European firms have been increasing their spending on R&D, US firms have been increasing their spending faster. And that is why the gap on spending has been growing bigger. And that, of course, does raise the question whether the EU can achieve its goal to be more independent from the United States, especially in technology.
But how does this affect the European Union competitiveness, Chiponda?
A huge part of the trend that we are seeing has to do with the tech industry. The leading spenders on R&D in the world are all US-based tech giants. So that is Amazon, Google parent Alphabet, Facebook owner Meta, iPhone maker Apple, and of course Microsoft. And there is no European tech firm in the top 10. In fact, the only EU-based firm in the top 10 is Europe's biggest car maker, Volkswagen. It is in 7th place. It spent 18 billion euros on R&D last year. And VW, of course, is a company that has been struggling in recent years. And that is, of course, in part because it hasn't been able to keep up with growing competition from Chinese car makers in the electric vehicle market sector. They, of course, have been able to be more innovative. And European companies like VW are not just facing more competition, they also have to deal with the continent's structural economic challenges. And those include an aging population, higher personnel costs, more red tape, and expensive energy.
All right, thank you so much, Chiponda, for joining us from Berlin and giving us a rounded perspective on this. Let's now take a look at other stories making news around the world in brief. Elon Musk-owned aerospace firm SpaceX suffered another blow to its Mars ambitions on Wednesday when a Starship prototype exploded during a routine ground test at the company's Starbase facility in southern Texas. This incident follows a series of failures in Starship program. All flights to and from the Indonesian resort island of Bali resumed on Thursday after being cancelled or delayed due to volcanic eruptions. Mount Lewatabi Laki-Laki, located in East Nusa Tenggara province, erupted on Tuesday, spewing ash 11 kilometers up above the sky. In the heart of historic Cairo, Jameel House of Traditional Arts is nurturing a new generation of Egyptian artisans by reviving traditional and heritage crafts. The centre is a collaborative initiative between King's Foundation School of Traditional Arts in the UK, Egypt's Ministry of Culture and Community, Jameel. Ahead of the International Day of Yoga, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami practiced yoga along with other officials and workers at his residence. The Chief Minister called upon the people of the state to make yoga an integral part of their daily routine. The Chief Minister also said that yoga is not just the practice of physical activities, but it is a process of self-reflection, inner peace and self-realization. In today's time, when young generation is becoming dependent on mobile and technology, various yoga camps and classes organized in Bikaner in Rajasthan are inspiring them. With Prime Minister's initiative in yoga, it is getting more popular, especially among children above the age of 5 years. As part of the 10th International Day of Yoga, Indian Embassy in Beirut organized a yoga session in the historic city of Byblos. Praised by the mayor, Dr. Joseph, the event saw enthusiastic participation. Ambassador Noor Rahman Sheikh inspired all to embrace yoga, echoing this year's theme, Yoga for One Earth, One Health. Moving on, World Sickle Cell Awareness Day is observed annually on the 19th of June. It serves as a crucial platform for raising awareness about sickle cell disease, a genetic blood disorder affecting millions worldwide. The day aims to highlight the struggles faced by those with SCD, promote understanding of the disease, and streamline efforts towards improving patient and finding a cure. Sickle cell disease is a chronic single-gene disorder that causes a debilitating systematic syndrome which significantly reduces life expectancy. It is characterized by chronic anemia, acute painful episodes, organ infarction, and chronic organ damage. SCD leads to various severe health complications. It causes red blood cells to become abnormally shaped like a crescent or sickle. These sickle-shaped cells can block the blood flow, leading to pain and other serious health complications. Sickle cell disease is particularly prevalent in India, especially among the tribal population. This disease affects hemoglobin, resulting in a wide range of health issues,
significantly affecting the patient's quality of life. The International Awareness Day also seeks to increase public knowledge and understanding of the challenges experienced by the patients, their families, and caregivers. In India, 8.6% of the population, or 67.8 million people, are identified as tribal. The National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission aims to address the significant health challenges. Launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 1st of July in the year 2023, the mission aims to eliminate sickle cell disease in India before 2047. Bureau Report, DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.